Welcome to part 2 of the Basics of Blender tutorial, and in this episode we're going to be actually modelling the pencil, which I think is the most fun part of using Blender, is actually making something digitally. And yeah, anyway, let's get right into it. So before we actually start on Blender, start modelling, the best advice I've ever received and ever found out is finding reference. Just type in pencil rubber on Google or any search engine and just find as many photos of the object you're trying to model as possible. Try and find out the materials, the sizes is a very important thing. But yeah, so this is a pretty good base for a reference. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to save image as, and then save it to my folder where my blend file is. So I got other references as well. So let's go reference 4 and then save that. Brilliant. Now, with that reference image, what we can do is we can go to preferences like we did with finding our GPU. We can go to add-ons, which is very handy, and we can go and find images as planes, sorry. I have it selected at the moment, but if you just want to select that, and what we can do once that's been selected is it will now be in our Blender project. We can now access that as a feature, images as planes. So let's just tap that, and let's go to our reference. Yeah, let's use this one. We can rotate it after the fact, and let's bring it, yeah, let's go this way. Go -5. We can type in exactly the measurement we want over here by just tapping and then typing, easy as, -5, just like that. And then what we do is we'll scale that up for now. We'll shrink the pencil down to the correct size after the fact. But yeah, let's rotate that to line it up a bit better. Let's say 45 degrees maybe. We can also get rid of this cube, we don't need it anymore, so let's go X and then delete. Now what we can do is we can click on this Y ball here and it will take us to the view from the Y angle using orthographic view. So everything is the exact same size right now, there's no perspective shift or anything, so everything that's 6 foot here will also be the same size. It will also have the same alignment if it's 6 foot over there. They will look exactly the same. There's no difference in size just from where you are in space. They're all the same size. But yeah, anyway, this is the pencil from this angle, lined up, so that's probably the best way to model, in my opinion. That is, yeah, a good perspective to model from. So what we want to do is we want to go to add, go to our primitives, and you may think we would add, I don't know, a cube, but we're actually going to add a cylinder into our scene. And then as soon as you add it, without clicking off, this box will appear down below. So if we click off, that box disappears and we can't access it again. So we're going to have to just go back, delete it, and then add the cylinder again and pop up this box. And now from our reference we can see that pencils usually have like a hexagon shape. They're about 6 sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these vertices and bring it down to 6, just like that. And we already have the makings of a pencil, kind of. But yeah, this box is, let's see. So the dimensions of this box are 2 meters by 2 meters by 1.73 meters, which is a bit weird, but I guess because this angle is a little bit shorter, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, what we're going to do is, because pencils aren't 2 meters by 2 meters, they're more like, well, let's just find out actually. Let's get a pencil and measure it. So from real world perspectives, a pencil is about just under 20 centimeters, about 17 or 18, depending on the type of branding, I guess. So what we need to do is make that 17 centimeters, which I believe is 0.017, I believe, or maybe 0.17. What we can do is, because I don't want to mess with the X dimensions and the Y, Z, because they're very specific, what we can do is you can just scale it down by clicking scale, and we'll go, how much does this scale down? So as you can see in the top left here, I'll just point an arrow at it, the scales are 0.077 at the moment. Let's go 0. It's probably going to be about 0.8. So what we can do, whilst we have our finger on the left button and we're still in scale mode, we can actually type in 0.0 0.08, and that gives us a specific measurement, and we got a pretty close measurement of 0.16 meters, which I believe is 16 centimeters. So that should be good enough. No, shit, this is wrong. No, this is right. Yeah, that's right. So the z-axis is 16 centimeters, which is good. We want that. Now what we can do is we can go to the scale over here. These are the actual dimensions, but this is the scale of the object. We can shrink these down, the x and the y-axis, to suit our pencil a bit more accurately to about, let's type in 0.008. Let's find out. Let's go to the y-axis and let's scale this pencil down a little bit. By a little bit, I mean a lot of it, to match the size of our pencil. Yeah, that's almost there. Shrink this down even further, 0.003. So let's shrink this down a little bit more. Yeah, that will do. So it's, let me try it one more time. That is 16 centimeters long and it's 0.006 meters wide, I believe. But yeah, that is good enough for this. 0.1. So yeah, once that all lines up and it's the correct size to real world perspectives, is always ideal, we can begin the modelling phase of this. So another lesson I've learned about modelling in Blender is that if you want to make objects look realistic, is you always want to try and have bevels in your objects. Everything in our world, apart from knives, like the very sharp edges of knives and pieces of paper that are so thin, they don't really need a bevel, but most things like doors, monitor screens and stuff like that, they all have a certain amount of bevel. They all have some bevel. It's just it just makes it realistic to have that, because it's the way light bounces around the edges. But yeah, so what we're going to do is, rather than just having this hexagon shape up here, we're actually going to bevel these edges here just a little bit, just because we want to get that realism. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit mode, and rather than select bevel here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the edge tool, and we're going to select all the edges of this pencil that are going to be visible in the final render, so all these, and then we're going to go Command B as a technique to bevel, and then whilst we're in bevel mode we can type in a number such as 0.02, as you can see at the bottom there. 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.05, 0.06. I'd say 0.005 is the best. And what we can do is, if we scroll up on our scroll wheel, we can add in more bevels just to add a bit more detail and to make them look a lot more smoother. So let's add 3 bevels. So we can right click and then that will be selected, but we can also, it will come up with this box here. We can actually choose how many bevel edges we have. We have 3 at the moment, or the width of it, which is 0.04 we decide in the end. But yeah, we can click off that and we can call it there. And that's pretty good. That's looking a lot smoother. Ooh. So what you just saw there was my camera view. Because this object's so small, my camera view clipped it. As we can see up here, clip start is 0.1 meters and I have an end distance of 1,000 meters. So what we can do is we can bring that down a little bit to 0.0001. So now we can get closer and the camera won't clip it. We're in a shade flat mode at the moment, which it automatically does when you start in Blender. But what we want to do is you want to go shade auto smooth, the texture of that pencil just a bit more smoother. We can also go shade smooth, not auto smooth. This will be used for materials such as glass, which have a very nice smooth sheen to them, but shade auto smooth will be just enough for our pencil. So what we're going to do now is we are going to sharpen our pencil. That sounds like I'm talking about a euphemism, but we're going to go add, and we're going to make our sharpener starting off with a cube. Well, this cube is a little bit big, so what we're going to do is we want to go select all that. Let's go 0.001. that will be good enough. And then we will move it down to the bottom here. And then to actually make the cone point of our pencil, we're going to get a cone. So at the moment it has 32 vertices, and what I would recommend is we have a multiple of how many sides our pencil has, just so that the geometry lines up. I'll show you after the fact. So we have 6 sides, so let's do, just to make it even, let's go 4 times 6. For every side we have 4 faces with the sharpened point. it'll make sense after the fact. But yeah, anyway, so we can come off that now, and then we just need to shrink this down to 0.01. Yeah, a little bit more, 0.005. That's good enough. And let's make this, judging from our reference over there. Oh, that's a bit far away. Let's bring that closer. Yeah, that's good. Our pencil tip is a little bit longer than that. So what we can do is we will stretch it out to about, let's go 0.7. Yeah, that's good. So what we're going to do is we will rotate this 180 degrees, just like that. And now we are going to use a modifier, which is this panel here, which I'll talk about now, called Boolean.
Boolean.
Which allows objects to cut out shapes from other objects. I'll explain a bit more, but what the modifier panel does is there's loads of options. One example I'll give is the array modifier, where we can, if you have like a shelf of food, or let's say cans of Coke or something, and you just want to make loads of copies of that, what you can do is you can just go to the array and you can just make it go, you can have like 34 cans of Coke if you want on the shelf, just if you want many duplicates in an orderly distance away from each other. But yeah, that's a great modifier, but that can be used for other projects, not in this one. So let's go add modifier, generate, and then Boolean. But what we want to do is we want to have the cube selected, add modifier, Boolean, and now this has a Boolean modifier applied to it, well, added to it. And then what we can do is you can take this eyedropper tool, and this cone will be our Boolean cutout tool. We can also unite the objects so they become one using that, and intersect does the opposite, so everything inside that cone will be cut out. But yeah, very useful tool. So we'll go difference. So now this cone is inside the cube. That will act as the Boolean tool, so we just apply that. And now we can bring that up and we have a cutout of a cone in our cube, which is brilliant. So what we can do is we can hide this now, and it's in our backup, so if you want to hide everything there, we can. Oh, this pencil and reference is also in the backup, so let's just bring that back up to there. If we highlight this, all our ongoing meshes that we add into the scene will be placed into this collection, so we'll highlight it just so they all go into the correct place. But because the cube and the cone we don't want to have in our final render, they will go in the backup scene. And in fact, so they don't render in our final view, we can go and tap that just so we don't have to worry about it in the future in our final render. But anyway, back to the sharpening of the pencil. So to get a better view of this, what we do is we'll go into wireframe mode, we'll go to the Y-axis camera, and we will bring the sharpener up to the pencil, like this. And make sure the point of this is just above, if not just on the bottom of the pencil, just like that. And now, yet again, we will select the pencil, the item we want to Boolean, go generate, Boolean, and select the cube, and then fast and exact. Fast, I find, is a lot there's less glitches involved with it, so we can select that, but exact is obviously a bit more precise, but often sometimes it makes my meshes disappear, so fast is just more consistently reliable. But yeah, let's apply that, and we can bring, actually let's keep that there but make it disappear. So now if we go to our shader view, we can see our pencil has been sharpened, which is brilliant. We can go auto smooth just to make the edge look a bit nicer. And the reason I wanted 24 edges for our comb is because now this geometry lines up with this, and we get a nice even cut in on each of our hexagon, each of those 6 sides. We get one line coming from each of them, along with one in the center, because we have let's go shades flat. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 segments per each side of the pencil. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, let's go shade smooth again. And if we want to, we can select our pencil. We can go edit mode, and we can make this point a little bit longer if we wanted to by selecting this point in vertex mode. And we can just select that, and we can bring it down if we wanted to. In fact, whilst we have that held, we can type in a number. We can go minus 0.001 if we want, just to make it a bit longer like that. yeah, that looks good to me. We'll come off edit mode now, and yeah, that's looking good so far. The pencil is coming together. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to carve in the graphite segment of the pencil, because usually with pencils, let me just get my example, it acts as a separate point, so it has a bit of an indent. It's basically a separate piece of wood that they put in the, graphite within the wood, so it's a separate object. So we're going to model it to look like a separate object. So what we can do is we can go to our knife tool. What this allows us to do is add cut-in geometry wherever we feel like it. So what we can do is, let's find a place where we think the graphite should appear. Just get started. So what we can do is we'll start, the highest points is on the pencil, so about here, and then we can dip down a little bit like that, and just continuously cut around the edges like this. And then once you feel content with the cut, press space and that applies the cut. But we want to go down around the whole pencil. And just like that, we have made the end of our pencil. Yeah, that looks good enough to me. It looks okay. It's going to be a very tiny point of the pencil, and this model's only going to be viewed from far away. But yeah, anyway, once we have that, once all those faces are selected, let's just make sure we can go back into our move tool and make sure all our faces are selected by holding shift whilst we select them. So now they're all together. If we were to do it without shift, what we do is we just get that, and then every time we lose our selected faces, so just hold shift, just like that. Or what you could also do is select one, and then with command held down, control, yeah, and just like that, it will select all the points between those two selections. It will find the shortest path, so just click command and just select around this whole object. It can come in useful. But yeah, what we do once all those faces are selected, we want to go to face and extrude face along normals. Extrude on normals, and let's make it so it comes into the geometry a little bit. Yeah, it will look a lot more prominent once we start adding in textures. Now we're going to work on the metal encasing and the rubber part of the pencil. Yeah, let's always go back to our reference when needed. In fact, let's go to the Y view, and that looks reasonably good. Not as sharp, but that's okay, that's adequate. In fact, it's getting a bit too much room up here, so what we can do is we can go to edit mode, and then with face mode selected, we can tap on that, and we can go back into the Y view mode, and we can bring it down to about there, because this is where it's going to be hidden, so let's go minus 0.004. Yeah, that's good to me. But yeah, anyway, back to modelling the eraser part. So what we're going to do is going to go add. We will add a cylinder, but this time we will add more geometry because we don't want it to have just 6 sides. We'll have 24, will that look good? We'll have a good amount of geometry, not too much that it's just overkill, but enough that from a reasonable distance it will look pretty smooth. But yeah, let's come off that. And then for this we can go shade smooth, because this is going to be a metallic material, which is similar to glass. It's quite shiny and it's quite smooth, and the imperfections become a bit more obvious. Let's shrink this down to something like 0.002. That's a bit too small. Let's bring it up on the Z-axis. Let's go 0.003. Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good, actually. Let's go back to the Y view mode, and we want to extend this to 6. Yeah, that's good. And let's go 0.01. I like to have whole numbers. I don't like to have many decimal points after the points. But yeah, anyway, that looks good enough to me. The reference is just a guide for the most part. You can get creative with it if you so please, just depending on what you want, or what the assignment you've been given or job description requires. It's up to you for the most part, but yeah, anyway. Let's go to edit mode, and what we can do now is, with face mode selected, we can select the top face, and holding shift we can set the bottom face, and then we go left click and we can delete those 2 faces, because this is going to be an encasing. So I just want to show you a technique that we could do if we wanted to model those beveling. Let me just show you the reference. If we go to reference, what we could do is we could actually model these indents here, the little engravings and all that jazz. I'll just show you an example of that. Let's just go Command Shift D to duplicate that and store it as a backup just when we need it. We'll keep that visible for now, but what we can do is we can go Edit Mode and we can go to Loop Cut, and what we can do is we can add in, let's say, 2 loop cuts. So there we go, that's 2 loop cuts there, and we can add in all those loop cuts. Let's take it back to 1. Now with holding Alt, we can select that face and it selects all of it around the cylinder, and let's do it again. Oh, we can also do Shift and Alt to select multiple. But yeah, now we can scale those in, and we have something that sort of resembles the indents of the pencil if it wasn't clipping into the pencil itself. But yeah, that's one way to do it, and that's a great method. It adds more geometry, it's more realistic on the whole up close. But we're not going to do that in our thing, because we will use another technique using normal maps, which I will mention in the next video, which we will go into in the next video. But yeah, anyway, let's get rid of that, because whilst that is a great technique, we will not use it. So let's delete that, and let's bring our one back into frame. So yeah, that's going to be the metal casing. Now let's move on to the rubber of the pencil. So we'll get a cylinder with the same amount of vertices, because we can, yeah, that's good enough, and we will shrink it down to 0.0028 maybe, and we can make it go 0.0029. So let's go to Edit Mode, and with the top face selected, we can go Control B to bevel, and let's try and mimic the tip of the eraser there. We've got to smooth off the edges here. So let's go Control B, that will do. Brilliant. So let's go Shade Auto Smooth, because this is a particularly smooth object, and brilliant, that looks good enough to me. Let's maybe bring it up a little bit like that, something around it. But yeah, we have finished modelling our pencil. The beginnings of a final pencil. We just need to begin texturing it, which we will work on in the next video. So yeah, I'll see you there.